What's going on, guys? Thanks for checking out this episode of Bringing the Heat. Before we dive in, I have a little announcement. We have a brand new podcast to the network. It is called Solo Shot. It's hosted by me, and it is meant to just be a 10 to 20 minute short form fantasy discussion just based around what's happening in fantasy baseball. It is not meant to replace this show in any way. It's more of a supplementary kind of moment because, as we've well documented, and you guys may have noticed, it's a little tricky for Will and I to get together right now. So we've been aiming at, instead of weekly, maybe every couple weeks. And in the meantime, I'm going to throw some stuff up on the new show. Like I said, it's called Solo Shot. There'll be a link down in the description. Check it out and let me know what you think. But until then, play that funky music. Acuna is gone for the year. The Mets are still Metsy Will, and we're going to dust off that panic meter. Let's talk about it. Bringing the Heat 35 with me, as always, the fourth inning fastball of co-host Will Sism. Brother man, we're back. It's episode 81. That's a kind of a wild number, isn't it? Dude, we're week 10 of fantasy. I mean, how are you feeling?
Man, we are. I mean, the season's over a third of the way done. How crazy is that?
Slow down.
I know, right? But man, I'm doing good. It's good to be on here, and we are in week 10. It's going by fast, but hey, I'm ready to take a deep dive in today. We got some we got a lot of good stuff. Couple of subjects that are going to be kind of tough, but
yeah.
But hey, I think it's gonna be a good day for a number 81.
Man, it is. Dog days of summer are here. You know,
Yeah.
This is where the grinders come out. Okay, the savvy, fantasy managers. We're here now. All right. This is where we go, men, from the boys kind of moment. This is so it's a lot of fun. I hope everybody's leagues are going well. Let's get started. We're going to talk about Acuna first, then we'll hit the standings. We got our heat check and had a bad day players. It's kind of the normal stuff we do. We're going to hit the grill. Going to talk some Angel Hernandez, maybe a little Mets talk. Boy, they had an interesting week while we were away. And then, like I said at the top, panic meter for big name players. I think we've kind of beat around this bush a little bit. Now we're going to really sink our teeth into it, which I'm excited about. And then we got a Roman Candle, pick to click, player of the week. We were talking about it before we hit record. We actually picked some good players, so it's a conversation. Stay tuned till the end for that. But for now, Will, let's dive in, man. This is a toughie because Acuna. We're on to 25, I guess. The reigning NL MVP and consensus number one overall pick in fantasy baseball is lost for the season after tearing his ACL. It was another non-contact injury. He's trying to steal third base a couple Sundays ago. You may remember he was dealing with some knee soreness in that knee in spring training, missed a little time. He was kind of underwhelming in the 2024 season with the bat. 250 average, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, 16 steals. I mean, he's still running, Will. But this is just sad overall for baseball and fantasy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. It's just a tough blow for baseball. When you've got arguably the most talented player minus Shohei Ohtani in the league that goes down, and this is really the second major injury in the span of 3 years?
Yeah, different knees.
4 years. Yeah,
he's got both knees now.
Yeah, and so anytime that you're missing one of the game's premier players, it's just obviously not good. And for it to be a non-contact injury, you honestly, at least from my standpoint, you don't see that a ton in baseball. You see it some in football, obviously. You hear ACL, MCL in football a lot more than you do in baseball generally. But you knew as soon as you saw that, like you were like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
And to your point, I do wonder if, with him having some knee soreness and just not quite looking right the whole year, at least according to his standards, was there something that was already bothering him? And I don't know, maybe it wore down and ended up being something major like this. So regardless, it's a tough blow, obviously, for the Braves. It's a tough blow for the league. Obviously a huge blow for fantasy if somebody has him, even though even though he was having a little bit of a down year by his standards,
For sure.
man, you just cannot replace somebody like that. You knew that it
Mm-mm.
was just a matter of time before he would really get rolling.
Yeah.
But more importantly, let's talk Braves for a second. Man, the Braves, you watch them play, and I get they won a World Series without him a few years ago, but man, that team don't look right now.
Sure.
It's like it stole their soul a little bit. We'll see what happens with the Braves. They look very vulnerable right now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they've had major injuries with Strider and Acuna, but still they should have enough talent still to where they're one of the premier teams in the league, and they just haven't looked right, especially since that injury. So let's
Yeah.
see how that shakes out over the next little bit. But all in all, just stinks to see one of the best in the game go down like that.
Yeah, for sure. Rips away the chance for him to have a good second half, because we did not see the kind of player that he's been in the past. And so, you look at it, you mentioned it. The Braves also lost Strider. So you're looking at a team that had the number one SP and the number one outfielder coming into the fantasy baseball season. They're both gone. I think if we're honest with ourselves, we both expect the Braves to be playing in October. So that just speaks kind of their depth. Yeah, it's sad, man. I don't know what to do. If you have them, you drafted them. Listen, you drafted 30 other guys, 25 other guys, however many, depending on the size of your league. Here's what I do. I dedicate the season to them. Okay, you go out and you say this is for Acuna's knees, and that's maybe change your team name and just kind of screenshot his knees, put that in the little Yahoo picture. It can be done. I don't know, and quick options. Obviously, they're play the hot hand on the waiver wire. Buy low on some of the guys we're going to talk about later that maybe people are starting to lose a little faith in. That would be my two options. Can't phone it in. The season's not over. We got a lot of baseball left, but it's definitely. I mean, you talk about wind out of sails. Will wind out of sails. Let's talk about a team right now that has. I mean, they're never going to lose again. Okay, hottest team in baseball, it feels like the New York Yankees. We'll move on to the standings. Golly, I hate to say it. It just makes so much sense, Soto, on that team, but it's just tough to watch as a Red Sox fan because they're just having a ball. They're having a ball. They are in first, 2.5 games up on Baltimore. The Yankees are 43-19. Baltimore Orioles 39-20. Third place, 500 Red Sox 31-31. Will you got Tampa Bay Rays at 30-31, and then Toronto Blue Jays 28-32, 14 games back. Yikes! In the AL Central, we have what was going to be a pretty interesting game today, but it got rained out. Got the Guardians and Royals battling it out there. Guards, dude, they just keep winning. 40-20. They're 5 games up on the Royals at 36-26. Minnesota Twins, they're not going away. They're 7 games back, 33-27. Tigers 1 game over 500. They would be in third place in the East. That's hilarious. 31-30. And then the White Sox 15-46. They're on a 12-game loser. They are on a 12-game loser.
Yeah.
Luis Robert.
Luis Robert's back.
He had a home run last night. I know you saw that. Yeah,
he did. That's my boy.
He's like, what are we doing here? You
Please trade him, White Sox. Just get him out of there.
He might have tried to sneak across, the other Chicago team.
Right.
Like, just tried to go home with the Cubs guys. Like, everybody be cool, okay? I play here now. In the West, Will, this is wild. You got Seattle. They finally turned it up. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They are 35-27. 5.5 games back. The Texas Rangers, 29-32. Everybody's still under 500 in this division, other than Seattle. Yikes. Houston. I don't know. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. 28-35. They're 7.5 back. The Athletics 24-38, and then the LA Angels. I mean, get Mike Trout back, and let's see if there's something to watch there. 23-38. Not much to see. Anything to take away from the American League?
You know what? I just think it's really interesting how these standings are shaping up. As you mentioned, the Yankees look like the best team in baseball other than the Phillies to me. I know Baltimore's right there. Here's what's really interesting about Baltimore. What do they do this year at the trade deadline? Do they part with 1 or 2 of those mega prospects to get whatever it is, a closer,
Yeah.
Another stud starting pitcher, whatever that is. And so I feel like that's kind of the, so to speak, the ace in the hole, or the wild card, so to speak, as far as the unknown. Like, what is Baltimore going to do to potentially improve this roster to really, really good to incredible?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm holding out for as far as like Yankees versus Baltimore. Because that's the class of the East. That might be the class of the whole AL, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to the Central, though. I am very impressed with the Royals and the Guardians. I think these sounds crazy, but I'm pretty certain that these are going to be two playoff teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, one of them would have to have a meltdown at this point to, at least not be in wild card contention and be in a good spot for it. So those two teams feel like playoff teams to me now. The Tigers are starting to show a little bit of life. I just don't know if they've got enough offense. We can talk about Torkelson another day. I thought that was really interesting, them sending him down.
Oh, he's been abysmal, though. I mean,
he has. No, he has. But I don't know, when you send a first overall draft pick down after he hit 30 bombs a year ago, that seems weird to me.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, the West. I still can't figure out what's going on in the West. I do know this. Seattle's pitching is so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a shame that their offense stinks as bad as it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, their pitching is so good, 1 through 5, that it might not matter until they get to the playoffs and play somebody like Baltimore or the Yankees.
Yeah.
I think my biggest question, and I'll throw it to you, are we almost to the point to say that the AL West is only going to get one team in the postseason this year?
I was just about to say that, dude. The season ended, you said Kansas City and Guardians are probably playoff teams.
They feel like playoff teams to me.
Well, the season ended right now. You throw the Twins in there. They are the last wild card spot. Yeah. Right now. And who had that on their bingo card after how last year ended?
No.
Right? That the West would only have one team getting in. Speaking to the Seattle Mariners offense versus the pitching, they have a +8 run differential. All right. Best in that division, which I think speaks to how terribly everybody else is playing. Yeah. That pitching staff is one of the top 3 pitching staffs in all of baseball.
Oh, yes.
And the offense can only manage to score 8 more runs than they're giving up. It is
pathetic.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And, Julio picked it up a little bit last week,
Yeah.
And so I guess there's some hope there, but they're another team. I heard something the other day that kind of, got my spidey sense tingling. Pete Alonso from the Mets. I guess we can talk about it. That's actually, I think it's on the spreadsheet later. I kind of forgot about that. But Pete Alonso, I heard he might be a perfect fit in Seattle.
He would. So the Mariners have got to do something. They have got to get a bat.
Yeah.
Or
two.
Jerry
DiPoto is he the owner or the general manager?
No, I think he's the GM.
So he came out, was it last year or a year and a half ago, when he said that, our goal is to win 56 or 54% of games or something, because that keeps us competitive.
Yeah.
And they ended up like 88 and 70 something, and it ended up being right around
64%. Yeah.
And they missed the playoffs by 1 game. It just seems like a weird way to run it. All that to be said, I don't know that I have faith in Seattle to make this move. I don't know why you wouldn't. This seems like just an absolute optimal time for them in a division where, the defending World Series champs off to a slow start. And then you got the Houston Astros who have run that division for the last, however many years. They're also playing terrible. And, you texted me about it this morning. You got Javier, you got Urquidy going down. Gone. TJ, see you next year. A thin rotation just got thinner in Houston. So Seattle, man, this is your time. Go do something. Anything on that before we move to the NL, or did we just kind of?
You know what? I'm almost there though. Like, I am almost ready to say that there's only going to be the division winner out of the AL West. It's hard to make up a lot of ground on teams that are playing pretty good baseball.
Yeah.
And You said it. As many injuries as the Rangers and the Astros have, not just injuries, but key injuries, especially in those rotations.
Yeah.
Man, like it is going to be hard to overcome all of those teams. And so I just feel like the lesser of the evils or the easier mountain to climb in this case is to try to overtake Seattle in the division instead of having to leapfrog multiple teams to get into a wild card spot. So I'm almost ready to say it's a one bid league this year, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah. June's going to tell us a lot.
Yes.
You know, I'd be curious to see first week in June versus the first week in July. Where are we? You know, Houston's offense is finally picking it up, but this rotation, you know, I've been holding out, and for every reason that I still believe in on some level, I thought Houston's going to be okay, but just to lose. I feel the same way about San Diego, you know, and we're going to talk about it, I guess, but Darvish, Musgrove go down, and Musgrove's been terrible. But when you lose pillars like that, and,
you can't replace them.
Houston's got no one to replace those guys with currently. They have got to make a move. I mean, that's their option. Or, you know, trade Bregman and figure out if you're going to be able to pay Tucker, because Tucker is top 4 MVP right now.
Yeah.
You know, maybe even top 3. He might price himself out of Houston. So
I agree.
Dude, he might be a Met next year.
I completely agree.
Would make me feel really weird. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I don't know.
I totally agree, but no, I'm with you. I just the Astros, the pitching staff is almost in shambles. It really is. And you know, we've talked about it. The bullpen has been a mess too. Like Hader's been much better recently.
Yeah.
But everybody else looks off.
Yeah.
Even Abreu hasn't looked great. And I thought Abreu has been the kind of the unsung hero these past few years, along with Presley, and obviously Presley struggled too. So, you know, I've said this multiple times, but man, if that bullpen isn't right, I don't think they can get there. That bullpen's got to be nails when they have leads, and it hasn't been up to this point.
Yeah, it's been bad. I want to look something up on Presley because he's
been bad.
He's been bad, but he's been okay when he's pitching in the 9th inning. It's like we're running into that closer thing again because he got the save the other night because Hader was unavailable.
The anti-AJ Minter.
Exactly. The reverse Minter, reverse the Kimbrel. Yeah, it's wild, man. All right, let's move on to the best team in baseball right now. And I think we're just are we closet Philly fans? I mean, I love these guys. These guys are having a great
I do really like the Phillies.
Yep, in the East, man, they are running it right now. I didn't realize they're 8 games up on the Braves, 44-19. They haven't lost 20 games left yet. The Braves are 34-25. They're 8 games back. Then you got the Nationals, Mets, and Marlins hanging out. They're in the mid-20s in wins. You got Nationals 27-34, Mets 27-35, and the Marlins 21-40. You're looking for a Jesus Luzardo watch, Tanner Scott watch. If you have them in fantasy, hang on.
They're
deadline.
all getting traded.
They're all getting. They should. Jazz even really should go if he can stay healthy. In the Central, you got the Brewers. Let's just trade Corbin Burns. And
Woodruff better
and get better, dude. And did they win that trade? Joey Ortiz has been a dude for them.
He's good.
36-26. They're 5.5 games up on the Cubs. 3-7 in their last 10. Not looking great. Cardinals 29-31. They're 6 games back. And then you got the Reds and the Pirates 29-33 and 28-32. And then in the West, Dodgers 38-24. 7 games up on the Padres. They're 500, 32-32. You got the San Francisco Giants, 30-33. Diamondbacks, 29-33, and then the Rockies, 21-40. Nothing interesting there to me. I guess I'm watching that middle. The meat of that division is kind of fun, sort of. But I'm not super impressed. What stands out, bud?
So did you know I saw this? I think it was last night. There's only 5 teams in the National League that are above 500.
Dude. You said that, and I was just looking. I was like, there was not that many teams. That's unbelievable.
There's only 5. Let that sink in. There's only 5 teams that are above 500 in the whole National League.
6 teams make the playoffs?
7, isn't it?
7, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have the first round bye. That's wild.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so this very well may be the year to where we get a team in the postseason in the National League that does not have a 500 record or above.
That's wild.
Crazy.
That
So,
is crazy.
so again, it's we've said all along that it's kind of the big three. We've said the Phillies, the Braves, and the Dodgers in whatever order you want to put them in.
Yeah.
But with the Braves struggling, it almost feels like a big two right now to me. Like I would say, obviously we've got a lot of season left.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, especially considering those major injuries to the Braves, it'll be interesting to see what the Braves do at the trade deadline as well. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But as of right now, man, it feels like we're on a collision course. Phillies, Dodgers, those feel like by far, in my opinion, the best two teams in the National League right now.
Wasn't that your prediction for the NLCS?
I do believe that was in the Yankees Phillies in the World Series. By
Wilster Damas.
the way, so hey, I had the Rangers last year too. So
yeah,
I'm
wait
on a
a
heater.
second,
I'm on a
dude.
heater.
You need to put some money on DraftKings or something, man.
Right. So I don't know. I just feel like the Yankees, or I'm sorry, the Phillies and the Dodgers are by far the most complete teams. Remember, the Phillies don't even have Trey Turner right now. The Dodgers don't even have Clayton Kershaw, Dustin May, whoever you want to throw out there as far as pitchers. Bobby Miller. So these teams are only going to get better, and we'll also see what they do at the trade deadline to probably bolster bullpen or whatever the case might be. So the Central, keep an eye on the Central, because as much as I love the Brewers start, I still don't trust that team. I don't trust the pitching. I like the lineup a lot, but I don't trust the rotation. And there's a few interesting teams in the Central. Like the Cubs are ice cold right now. We'll see if they can rebound. But the teams that really interest me right now in the Central are the Cardinals. I feel like the Cardinals might have one last stand in them for some reason.
Yeah.
And then the Pirates, if they can get a few guys in their lineup hot, and they can go on a little bit of a streak, like, I'm talking about in 20 game stretch, if they could win 14 games, for example, and kind of ride that pitching staff and score just enough runs to string together a bunch of wins, the Pirates could be interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for the Central, but the East and the West right now in the National League, from my standpoint, feels kind of like a wrap to me.
Yeah. Dude, Skeens and Jared Jones for the Pirates have been
so good.
Yeah, as advertised. I mean, my goodness gracious.
Poor Jared Jones. All you hear about is Paul Skeens, and Jared Jones is legit.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of I don't even know if this fits, because I don't feel like DeGrom had really come into his own when it was him and Syndergaard.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're Matt Harvey. It was like that trio. And oh man, oh geez, unbelievable what happened to that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about some better things, Will. Oh, it's back, man. It's time to talk about the Heat Check Player of the Week. And let me tell you something. We faced off in all leagues that we compete against each other this week. And let me tell you something. Your pick, I can't stand them. Okay, you go ahead and tell them, and then I'll get on a little rant, I guess. But go ahead and let the people know.
So my Heat Check Player of the Week, and I'm going to almost say it for the month, is Aaron Judge. Like, I mean, what can you say about this guy? This guy got off to a super cold start.
Yeah.
And there were some smatterings of boos in Yankee Stadium in late April when Aaron Judge was struggling, and you've got the golden boy Juan Soto, taking over the Bronx in Yankee Stadium, and you got Aaron Judge struggling. Well, the calendar flipped to May, and Aaron Judge was like, you know what? I'm going to have to show him what's up. And so Aaron Judge in the month of May, let me pull this up here.
I want to hear it.
Let's go with a 361 batting average, 14 home runs, 479 on base percentage. I
It's
think
unbelievable.
that'll get the job done. So
Almost a coin flip.
yeah, and so here's the thing about Aaron Judge though. Whether you love him or you hate him, when Aaron Judge gets hot, he hits bombs.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like when the really good major leaguer gets hot, it's usually like he goes, he might hit 500 for a stretch of a week or two, but it's like, 4 doubles, a triple, a couple of home runs, and obviously a very productive week or two. But when Aaron Judge gets hot, it's like 15 home runs in a month.
Yeah, it's like a knife through butter. He just looks that smooth.
Yes, it does. So anyways, Aaron Judge, whether you like him or not, he's just been absolutely unbelievable this past month and especially the last week or two.
Yeah. Dude, Will might have the only team in fantasy baseball. I've told him this because he traded for Aaron Judge. He drafted Juan Soto in this league. So he might be the only person in a non-keeper league, 12 teams, head to head, who has Judge and Soto. And dude, they were unstoppable. Like the last 3 days of our matchup, they did not get out. I was watching them, and I was talking to Claire. I was like, "This is unreal." They're high profile. She knows exactly who they are, and so she knew to promptly root against them. It didn't matter. I mean, dude, Soto kept hitting home runs against Duvall, who I had in another league. I was like, "Dude, get this guy out of the game." It was a Sunday later game. It was the last game for the ESPN game, and it brought whip in one of my head to heads. I had like a pretty sizable lead, and it was like 0.02 because of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm stressed. So if Jeff Hoffman had a clean inning, I would have lost a matchup because it would have flipped whip because Duvall was that bad. I digress. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, dude, that's got to be a great time because they're unbelievable. And the Yankees really, they're having a good time. I don't love to watch them. It's weird. I don't love to watch them because they're the Yankees. But this is like an iconic duo. It's very much like Ortiz and Ramirez to me. Like these guys are, and they might not be together that long. So I'm trying to soak it in a little bit. Aaron Judge, heat check. It had to be. He's player of the month. He might have had the best month. He had the most extra base hits. He had 26 extra base hits. 20 of them were homers.
Yep.
I believe. The last guy to do that for the Yankees was who was it? Joe DiMaggio back in the like the 30s or 40s. It just what a year. And he's not hitting off of a guy who sells ice, an ice salesman or whatever. It's a different level of pitching now. So if you can have your name up to people whose faces are in black and white on the graphic on the Yes Network, you're doing something right. I got a couple that I want to talk about for my Heat Check Player of the Week. Just the best game that I've seen in a while. Christian Yelich, okay. Shout out to the former NL MVP. Had a huge day at the office on, I believe it was last Thursday. 5 for 6, 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, even stole a base. Not on any of my teams, but he was against me in like 4 matchups. So I was like, this is not ideal. But you just can't do anything but clap for the guy. What a game. Listen, the deal with him is if he can stay healthy, the world is his oyster, and he hasn't been able to. The last couple years he was dealing with, I think it was like a back. Yeah. He was out with something kind of briefly, but it has not affected his play on the field at all. He's having a great year. And then one guy that I meant to put on the sheet, but I didn't. I gotta give claps to my guy Alex Bregman, because he has turned it around, and as he has gone, so is a little bit that Houston offense. Last 7 days, what about this, Will? 10 for 27. He's got 4 bombs, 370 average, OPS of 1.340. In our home league, just hanging on this guy and waiting for something good to happen.
Yeah, and it was much needed.
For sure. Finally turned it around. Then he gets hitting the head with a pitch. So it's super unfortunate. He is day to day. But your buy low window is, if you guys were needing a third baseman, which a lot of teams probably do, buy low window is over. Will, anything on Yelich or Breggy?
You know what? I would just say on Yelich, man, he, when you think back to his MVP year, he doesn't I don't think we're ever going to see that kind of power out of him again.
Yeah.
At least consistently. But you watch Christian Yelich, and man, there's just certain guys that understand how to hit. And he is one of those guys that just knows how to hit. It doesn't matter what kind of pitcher's out there against him.
Mm-hmm.
He will figure out a way to make hard contact and to, have great at-bats. Even when he doesn't get on base, a lot of his at-bats just look really, really competitive.
Yeah.
He won't swing at a ton of pitches outside of the zone. Just honestly, one of the more underrated pure hitters of this generation, in my opinion. I mean, he is I've got him on one of my fantasy teams this year,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest with you, I've always kind of wanted him on my team,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just kind of fun to have. Like, you just know that almost every game he's going to be productive. He'll steal bases for you.
Yeah.
He's got some pop still, so I don't know, just a really, really good player. And to your point on Bregman, man, it was just much needed. I mean, you talk about a guy having a abysmal year and a contract year of all years.
Yeah.
Let's see if this can somewhat get him started, and let's see if he can sustain this. We don't need this to be just a 10-day hot stretch, It needs to be something that's sustainable if the Astros are going to have hopes of getting to the postseason this year.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's we talked about the pitching last segment.
Yeah, that lineup's going to have to go.
Big time, for sure. So we'll see. I think it stinks you're missing time on kind of a fluke injury. I assume they're trying to bust him in because he was finally barreling some baseballs. He was not doing that. I mean, he's one of those guys that it was the worst watch than the numbers even looked. I mean, they were a lot. I'd love to look it up. I need to, I should have maybe a lot of infield fly balls off his bat. I mean, it felt like every time I watched him. So, yeah, man, it sucks to go miss time. But here's what else is bad, Will.
Because you had a bad day, you take one down.
Scuba down, tell me about your player.
Man, dude, we were talking a lot about this via text over the last week or so, and think about what if you had Ellie De La Cruz over the first month of the year.
Yeah.
If you could have seen into the future and known what was maybe going to transpire, what you could have traded him for at that time.
Yeah.
I think you could have traded for just about anybody, honestly.
Yeah.
Now, here we are. So I put these stats together a couple of days ago, but for a 10-game stretch from May the 23rd through June the 2nd. So get this. This is kind of hard to believe.
Right.
He struck out 20 times.
Yep.
I mean, Luis Arias might not strike out 20 times in over half a season. And I know that that's probably a bad comparison, but just to put that in perspective a little bit, I mean, you strike out 20 times, man, in 10 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot of strikeouts. Yeah.
I mean, so anyways, I'm not out on Ellie De La Cruz, right? I'm not out on him. But here's the thing, I think in today's day and age, people are so quick to anoint people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, all of the people are being like, oh man, this is a top 2 fantasy guy, after that first month. And here we are, this guy honestly might have the most peaks and valleys of anybody in fantasy baseball. When times are good, he's going to carry your team in a lot of categories. But when things are bad, he's going to anchor your team.
Yeah.
And there's not much in between, at least in my opinion.
No, it's weird. It's like he's, I don't know, because I don't feel like he walks that much.
It's gotten better. That has gotten better.
But okay, so I was trying to find the perfect spot to kind of cut it off. So let's go beginning of the season to April 30th. Okay, so that's 30 games.
Yep.
That's 280 average. He had 8 homers, had 18 steals, which at that point was lapping the field.
Yes.
And strikeout rate was 30%, but his career strikeout rate's like 33. So you could say, okay, we're seeing some improvement. Like I said, 8 home runs, 19 RBIs, 5 doubles, 1 triple. He's so electric. You turn on SportsCenter, he's the guy you're gonna see because they're gonna pump the dynamite guy. I'm telling you, the way Acuna started, you could have flipped him for anybody. And I actually tried to flip him for Acuna. Didn't ever hear back from the guy. And then that was the week that Acuna got hurt. So I guess dodging bullets there. But still, you could have traded him for anybody because everybody wants. And it's weird because stolen bases is such kind of a fluky stat, and it really doesn't help you any other way than runs. You know, you get your steals and you get your runs.
Right.
And but any guy who's, basically every time he got on first, can't steal first.
Stealing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we've talked about it before, but I mean, we've seen him get on, and you just know he's still in second and third. After that, the next 30 games, or 31 games rather, a 193 average, OPS 572, still 14 steals. I mean, every time he gets on, he's going. 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 35% strikeout rate. He's a free swinger. You know what I mean? And I owned him for about 10 days, and I got him kind of for what I felt like was a pretty solid deal, and then felt like I could flip him for somebody better. And so that's kind of what I did. But I had him for 10 days. He had one game, he went 4 for 4, stole 4 bases. The rest of the games, I'm not kidding you, I'm not lying to you, Will. He went 1 for 24, 20 strikeouts. All right? No, it was 12 strikeouts rather. But it was, dude, it's like you can't. In our home league, the guy who has him benched him on Sunday, most important day in fantasy. I don't know what to think of him. You have to think at some point the plate discipline is going to improve, but he's just like Judge, right? I mean, he's ginormous. He has the biggest strike zone in baseball.
Right.
So you got to really work hard to be able to cover that. And he's got some work to do. But for categories, like, his ADP drops like 120 spots in points leagues because he strikes out so much. But in categories, like, you're gonna win steals most weeks. Ironically, he only stole one. The 1 week I had him, only stole 1 base. So, it's other than the 4 steal game. But I don't know.
You just gotta know. In my opinion, you gotta obviously know what you're getting with him, right? And you have to build a team around him. Yeah. Especially in a category league, you have to build a team around him, in my opinion, of a bunch of steady guys. Like, it's okay to have 1 or 2 kind of like super hot or cold guy if you've got a bunch of steady guys around him. Yeah. Because when Ellie's going good, like, you're going to win steals, you're going to win a lot of categories, but when he's going bad, especially in a deeper league, you can't really afford to bench him, But if you build the right kind of team around him with your rock solid guys, like I'm thinking of guys like if you have a Freddie Freeman, if you have a Bo Bichette, a Will Smith, like guys like that that have high floors.
Arise,
yeah, that's a good compliment. So, like, you have to build a team around him that works. You can't have a bunch of hot cold guys, because then you're gonna have some weeks where you look like a rock star, but then you're gonna have some weeks where you get totally blown away. And so it just has to be the right mix around the guy, and you have to just know what you're getting. You're not ever going to get a guy who's going to, you can just bank for 2 for 4 with, a double and a single. Like, that's just not who this guy is.
Yeah. Nope, it's not. And it makes him the most intriguing player in fantasy because he's a lottery ticket. I mean, in every sense of the word. Like, and when he jackpots, it'll win you categories.
Yes.
Dude, I tell you who didn't win me a lot of categories, My had a bad day player, Taj Bradley, dude. Last week, what about 3.1 innings, 3 Ks, a 24.30 ERA for that starter, 3.6 WHIP against the Baby Birds in Baltimore. Dude,
Painful.
It was so tough to watch, man. Because I also had Bradish, so I was, I had vested interest in both sides of that game, and neither one of it went well. This guy has so much upside. You see it with the strikeout rate. 10.9 K per nine is nasty. His swinging strike rate, I had it up here. What was it? I think it was like 13.6%. That's 85th percentile in Major League Baseball. Everything else looks pretty tough, man. I mean, he's walking a lot of people, hard hit rate. He's getting barreled 12% of the time. I mean, it's weird because when he's on, I saw him. He gave up 5 runs to the Red Sox, but struck out 10.
Right.
And the 10 strikeouts were like the nastiest thing I've ever seen. So I was like, I got to hold this guy. But pitching is so deep right now that it's hard to hold on to somebody who's pitching this bad. So I guess you have to weigh, someone that's going to go out and grab him. I didn't think after this start he would. Pretty tough way to, kind of round out your week as you go into your final 2 days of a head-to-head, Will. Anything on your boy, Taj?
You know what? I agree with everything you said. I mean, I had to start him in our matchup because I was so far down in pitching category. I was like, well, what the heck, And then that happened, and I was like, well, I have 0 chance now. But
gave up 4 home runs. I started him in a home run league. Okay, I had a homer lead by like 2, and then I flip on the app. No, he gave up 4 of those puppies.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird with Taj because as a Tampa Bay Rays fan, like you see the upside, right? And you even I've even seen. I know it's a limited sample size because he started the year on the IL with an injury, but minus the start, he's actually looked really good. He looks way better already this year than he did a year ago. Yeah. The issue with Taj is he's very much, for whatever reason, prone to the home run, and really more importantly, you mentioned this, guys barrel him up more than they probably should with the stuff that he has.
Right.
And here's kind of my overall takeaway, though. I think he's going to be really good in certain spots throughout the year. So if you can find, if you just have him kind of on your watch list, and if you're, in need of a pitcher to stream, if he's on the waiver wire in your league and you need a decent strikeout game for somebody and he's sitting there, pick him up, because I would say 2 out of 3 starts, he's going to be really good. And then he's going to have a stinker that third one.
Yeah.
But here's kind of my thing. I think if the Rays hold on to him, which I expect they will for the foreseeable future, I think this guy's going to turn into a really good pitcher. I'm not sure if he's going to be an all-star yet, like a McClanahan or somebody like that. But I think at minimum, he's going to be a really, really good number 2 starter for Tampa, especially once McClanahan gets back. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think he's a little bit raw. I think he's still trying to develop some of his all-speed stuff and really develop the splitter this year. If he can really get comfortable with a couple of those pitches, like the splitter especially, I think he's going to transition into – I think he's going to have a major leap, especially in fantasy circles, maybe as early as next year.
Yeah, he's 23. So you're exactly right. I mean, this is not a finished product with this kid at all. They are high on him, and obviously we're very high on Rays pitchers. So there's tons to love about this kid.
Yeah.
I just, dude.
And keep in mind, Baltimore's lineup is so good, especially once it gets going.
Oh, they'll mash. There's no doubt about it, man. Yeah, they may look easy. Let's talk about somebody who didn't make it look easy, Will. As we transition to What's on the Grill with Will, got a couple topics here. This one is, I don't know. So long. Sayonara. Enjoy retirement. Angel Hernandez. The crowd goes wild because, listen, Angel Hernandez, MLB umpire for over 30 years. He announced last Monday that he'd be stepping down. He has been labeled the most disliked, most controversial, and worst umpire in professional baseball. Actual data shows that he's not the worst in the game, but he's very below average. Okay. He actually sued. A lot of people may have actually heard of him. This is why, listen, you don't know a lot of Major League umpire names. The reason why you do is he sued Major League Baseball because he was being held out of umping World Series. I don't know if anybody knows this. Umpires are tenured, very similar to like teachers.
Yeah.
So pretty hard to lose your job, no matter how good or bad you do. MLB came back in that lawsuit and said, nope, you're just bad. Here's statistics that show that. And a judge threw it right on out. He tried to appeal a few years later, I think in 2019. And they said, nope. Social media ripped this guy apart. Well, I think Twitter and now X and the fact that all these games can be televised. Listen, he's done a pretty tough job. Just as recent as this year. I mean, I think of the Wyatt Langford at bat where he was called out looking on 3 pitches that were a ball and a half, 2 balls outside. And that was old Angel Hernandez. All accounts from, players I hear talk about him, super nice guy. Not great. Social media ripping him to shreds with like the picture of him. Did you see this? He was signing his retirement papers and it was way off the line. Did you see that? Oh, dude. People are brutal in the comment sections. I saw one that said do I have a hat up here that's not on my head? It said that the Major League logo is a picture of what Angel Hernandez thinks is a strike. And it's the ball right at the guy's head. Dude, people had a good time. My question for you as we chuckle, do you think social media and society in general is just too tough on this guy and possibly pushed him out of the game?
I mean, probably. But here's the thing. If you're in a high-profile position, especially a NFL referee, for example, NBA referee, or in this case, a Major League Baseball umpire. And here's the thing. Once you get that reputation, it is hard to break loose from it.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. Once somebody like that gets a reputation, like it's just hard to separate yourself from that. And so to answer your question, yes, I would say that for the most part, people are way too hard on the guy. Mm-hmm. But here's kind of my thing, and I'll just kind of leave it here. My mindset, whether it's NFL, NHL, MLB, whatever, in my opinion, I shouldn't really know who the umpires or the referees are.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like usually, whenever you start learning who the referees are, or the umpires in this case, they're usually not doing a great job. Because if you're watching, for example, an NFL game, and they're calling holding every play, or pass interference on super questionable calls.
Roughing the passers.
Yeah, roughing the passer when the guy like touches the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, whenever stuff like that happens and you learn, oh, that's so-and-so, that makes sense. Like, that's kind of the telltale sign for me that, in this case, a referee or an umpire is not really the greatest at their job. In my opinion, a referee or an umpire that's really, really good, I'm not really going to know who's refereeing or umpiring the game because it flows, right? And there's not any egregious bad calls, whatever. I'm not saying anybody needs to be perfect, but referees and umpires needs to get out of the way of the game, right? And that's kind of my opinion. But happy for the guy that he's retired. I hope he was somewhat able to retire on his own terms. Mm-hmm. But overall, I'm sure people were way too hard on him. But at the end of the day, when I know who this is, because in a bad way, he definitely could have done a little bit better job. That's kind of all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's possible to be bad at your job and people have been too mean to you. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're looking at, especially now with all the statistics and people, there's a guy on Twitter, it might be called Ump Scorecard. I think that's what it's called. And they grade kind of how behind the plate goes and how many calls were strikes that were called balls, how many balls were called strikes, and they put it into percentages. Very interesting because every once in a while you see like an umpire perfect game, and it's just kind of neat. That's not what we're dealing with here. This his zone played a part in the game, and before every series, you're briefed on as a team what umpiring crew you're going to get. Had to, and who's going to be where when. I think the biggest issue with all this is the fact that every umpire has to do every position in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, if you're not great behind the plate, don't do that every 4 days, But I think it's mandated by Major League Baseball. Of course, everybody rotates. I mean, I understand that it might be a strain on somebody to be behind the plate an extra game, a set. But, I mean, if we can't let these guys go, because these major league pitchers are so good. It's one of the arguments that I have if I'm trying to say I don't know how I feel about the automated pitch, zone. These guys are going to figure out a way how to paint.
Yep.
And you can see it just pitch sequencing with him behind the plate. Okay, you're giving me that strike, a ball out. Yep. He's going to go out and he's going to push that limit again because now you're going to have to make Angel say he was wrong with this call before if he calls it a strike now. So I don't know. He seemed like such a sweet dude, but I mean, there's some lip readers out there on the internet that, oh gosh, it is very entertaining to watch. Like you said, wish him well, and better days are ahead. He said he's going to retire and spend more time with his family. That's the dream. So go enjoy that, man. And him and Cowboy Joe West. Those are the two that I can think of. I should know your name. I think you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Will, the Mets are Metsian. Yeah, a couple things here to talk about. I mean, I guess one kind of leads to the other. Shout out to my buddies Joe and Jason. They are my Mets fans buddies. Okay, so I really need to bend their ear on this situation. But the Jose Lopez, he was designated for assignment, kind of a snap designated for assignment. After he gave up a lot of runs, then got ejected from the game, then chucked his glove into the stands. When he was interviewed, I guess there was some kind of translation error. It seemed like he said he plays for
the worst team.
Upon further review, it seems like he actually said, "I've been the worst teammate." I don't know. It's weird. The weird thing is he doubled down and essentially said, "No, it is the worst." And so I can see where the confusion comes in. He'll probably get picked up for a better team, which will be hilarious because this Mets team is looking pretty tough. If you look at the back end of this pin for the Mets, okay, Edwin Diaz. All right, can we all agree that when he came into the year, it was like he's kind of regaining the crown as the number one closer with Bautista being out.
Yeah.
He has been so terrible coming back from that knee injury. A 5.40 ERA, a 1.25 whip, 4 blown saves in quick succession, it feels like. He's been removed from the closer role for the time being. I guess that's why you don't pay closers big money. I don't know. No one's been able to fill the role, man. They are leading the league with 10 losses after the 7th inning or later, holding the lead. They've blown 10 games. So I don't know what we do with the Mets. What are you seeing on this? Are they toast or are they going for a wild card here?
I think they're done. I cannot see this team making any sort of a run. I mean, even look at their lineup. Like Alonso, Lindor, those guys are as streaky as they come.
Yeah.
The rest of the lineup, there's not really a whole lot there, in my opinion. There's some nice pieces, but nothing really, in my opinion, that you really build around. I think Starling Marte is a good player, but he's mid-30s now.
Mm-hmm.
The starting rotation is, Sean Manaea's been okay, but if you're talking about, Sean Manaea being your best starting pitcher,
Kodai Senga, right? Okay, got injured, has had setback after setback.
Yeah.
It's just back-to-back years with the starter not being ready for opening day.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be back by now.
Yeah.
It's June. And
dude, if he's having setbacks, multiple setbacks as you mentioned, and we're already June basically first week of June. what can we really rely on, for this year at least?
Why bring him back?
Right.
What if they're not competitive?
But to your point about the bullpen, I cannot believe how bad Edwin Diaz has been.
Dude.
And I don't know how much Mets baseball you've watched, Cody, but I've actually seen a few of their games. And it's really weird. Like, I understand it's really easy to second guess these guys just sitting on the couch watching it. But what I don't understand when I watch a guy like Edwin Diaz is it feels like to me that he relies way too much on the slider. I mean, he's got 98, 99 in the bank with a fastball that runs. And it's like he wants to throw a slider 3 out of 4 times. And what I've really seen when he gets in trouble is he'll try to, especially, he faces a lot of left-handed guys since he's a right-handed hitter. So he's trying to bury the slider down and in to a lefty. And he throws 2 straight balls. So you're 2-0.
Yeah.
And anytime in the major leagues, man, when you get behind a guy 2-0, I don't care how good you are, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
When these hitters have count leverage on you, that's tough. And I feel like that's a big part of his issue. But man, regardless, it's been a disaster, an absolute disaster of a year. The rest of the bullpen's been awful as well. Ottavino can't close out games.
Man,
Reed Garrett can't close out games. You name it. Brooks Raley was the only guy who was consistent in that bullpen, and he's gone for the year now, I think. So,
yeah. Diekman gave up the.
Yeah.
I think who? Oh,
the
man.
Mets are going nowhere though. They're going to have a fire sale, in my opinion.
Dude, they already did that. You know what I mean? Like they did that with JV. Like, at what point you're playing Legos with different pieces than anybody else.
Right.
And Steve Cohen, I am going to be so interesting. I think it's going to be the most intriguing thing that happens.
Dude, Juan Soto ain't going to that tire fire of an organization.
You don't think so?
No.
Dude. What if they offer him $650? They offer him $100 million more than the Yankees?
I mean, we'll see. We will see. But I can see them throwing the bag at somebody like Kyle Tucker.
I know.
Like, I really, that honestly feels like, because I think Tucker's going to go for the highest bidder. I really do. Yeah. Because he's not going to get, let's face it, Tucker's not going to get what Soto gets.
Are we that sure? I mean, okay, no, I guess we are, but it's not going to be that much less. The way he's playing,
might not, but
I think he's going to get $350, maybe
it might
more.
Not. Now, if he had a chance to redeem himself in the postseason, it might be a little bit different story. Because here's the thing: like you can say what you want. One of the things that makes Juan Soto so good is how clutch he is. There's certain guys that have the clutch gene, and there's certain guys that don't. In the biggest moments, certain guys lock in and they deliver. And those guys are so rare. Yeah. You think Bryce Harper does it in big moments for the Phillies, did it for the Nationals, but now does it for the Phillies. Juan Soto in the biggest moments. Think about when he was a 20-year-old kid,
19,
hitting a bomb off of, what was it, Garrett Cole in the World Series for the Nationals.
Yeah, he got Hader too, right?
I'm pretty sure he did. But Juan Soto, that's, in my opinion, like, the stats are what they are. We know how great these two superstars are. Yeah. But when you really look at Soto in the biggest of moments, you've already seen it this year with the Yankees. These big moments where he hits a home run in the late innings to put them in the lead. Yeah. That is special stuff. And so I just say all that to say, I mean, could Steve Cohen just absolutely blow the offer out of the water? He could. Yeah. But, man, I would be so shocked if Juan Soto goes to the Mets. The Mets just feel like a disaster waiting to happen to me.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of happening, bud. It's interesting. Yeah. We're going to see, obviously they offloaded those big name pitchers last year for prospects.
Yeah.
Are they going to turn into anything?
Doubtful.
I don't know. I want it to be good. I think it's fun when the Yankees and the Mets are good for New York.
I agree.
It's wild. Last thing is Pete. Where's Pete playing in August?
I mean, okay. Let me put it to you this way.
Okay.
Is he a Met come August the 6th or whatever?
That's what I just.
I don't think so. Now what team is he going to go to? I have absolutely zero clue. Now, you mentioned this at the top of the show. Should the Mariners give the Mets whatever they want for him? Yes.
Maybe.
But will they? I honestly doubt it. I just don't trust the Mariners organization. I think they're going to somehow screw up this amazing rotation they have by not getting a hitter other than Julio. But that's beside the point. But no, I do believe if you're the Mets, you have to trade Alonso. I think this has to be somewhat, I don't want to say rebuild, because you don't rebuild when you're the Mets and you have this deep of pockets.
Yeah.
But this is as close to it as you can ever get. They need to tear this thing down and get some new blood in there, honestly.
Yeah. They're in bed with so many guys though, right? I mean, they have
you
Lindor
can't trade
locked down.
Lindor.
Nimmo they signed, McNeil they signed, so Diaz, which is not like a bad core. I don't in a vacuum dislike any of those guys. I don't know. Maybe it's like an off-season discussion. We could just dive in and talk this for hours. It feels like, but okay. Well, I think Bobby Dahlbeck needs to be replaced in Boston. Why doesn't he go play there? Okay, I'm just kidding.
Imagine Alonso though hitting in the Green Monster. Now that would be fun.
I would enjoy that. It's not going to happen, but I'd enjoy it. I would say maybe Cubs, right? Just put
I could see that.
Put Bellinger out there. It depends on what PCA does, because they keep
see that.
bringing him up. He smashes in AAA and then comes up and doesn't do much in the majors, but he's good in the outfield, so they put Bellinger at first. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I can see that. That's interesting.
Maybe. How
about the Pirates?
Well, dude, they're only 7 games back. Anybody could take that division. We talk like it's over. It's not. I mean,
I agree.
We like the Pirates, man, especially if Bednar figures it. Bednar figures it out. Let's talk about some guys who need to figure this out. Okay, you said this 2 weeks ago. Hey, let's do Panic Meter next episode, and I loved it so much. And it's been so long that I forgot the guys I wanted to put on the list. So we remembered it this morning and put them on there. Here we go, Will. We're going to go one by one. 1 to 10. 1 is I'm super nervous about this. Or, excuse me. 10 is I'm super nervous about this guy. Might need to get him off the fantasy team. 1 is why is he even on this list, Cody? Bad job by you. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Austin Riley. 230 average. 3 home runs, 19 RBI to start the year. He has missed some time with some intercostal inflammation. That's the ribs for anybody who's not medical. That's probably general knowledge. No, you probably knew that. Massive step back just across the board everywhere for this guy. Pretty big surprise in one of the top fantasy third base. I think we might have had him blue chip, Will.
Yeah.
How nervous are we?
You know what? This is interesting because I texted you this the other day. Like I was just randomly just looking at some stats the other night, and I came across Austin Riley, and I knew he was having a down year, but I clicked on his stats, and I seriously had to do a triple take. I was like, oh my gosh, I was floored at how bad his stat line really is. And so here's my thing on the Panic Meter. I'm gonna say a 3. Just because I've had Austin Riley before, and I know how streaky he is. Like he will, he'll go some weeks, and it's like, what in the world is going on? I mean, it feels kind of like Ellie De La Cruz, like striking out every other at bat and not non-competitive at bats. But then there will be another week where it flips, and man, he just goes on a tear. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's going to come at some point. I feel like it's got to come. Yeah. And if this Braves team has any soul left after Acuna went down, Riley and Olsen, man, those two guys have got to get going. I mean, got to get going. Obviously, Michael Harris needs to get going too, but I'm still on the fence with him. But Austin Riley and Olsen have to get going. So I'm at a 3 just because history has told me that he's very streaky. I think at some point very soon he's going to get on a hot streak, and his stat line will look much better after that. And so I'm kind of at a tempered panic right now. Like, I'm not too worried about him at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was going to say like a 4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great look. The injury thing, I don't know. He maybe just give him a couple more days here, a couple more weeks to get his footing coming back from that injury. Underlying numbers look largely unchanged. Other than he's just not hitting the ball hard. But you can say that for so many guys. I don't know. Did you see the ball that Teoscar Hernandez hit off of Chapman the other day? Okay. He hits this ball. PNC, mind you. He hits this ball. Chapman takes his glove, immediately chucks it. The ball barely makes it to the warning track. Everybody thought he got it. The camera panned out like it was a home run. I mean, it looked like like something's up with these balls. I am convinced. You cannot not convince me otherwise. I did a little research on this. We're on pace to hit almost 1,000 less home runs this year than we did last year. So something's up. All that being said, I'm not going to believe in this guy because you know me, I'm a track record guy. So I think he's done it before, and I love everything you said about how streaky he is. It is tough. I mean, because you drafted him, you might have chose him over Devers, and Devers is going off right now.
I agree.
So third base, top 5 third base has gotten a lot more interesting, which I think is fun for us in fantasy baseball. Moving to the outfield, well, I'm going to switch up the order here. I'm going to pair some guys together. I got Corbin Carroll, man. I keep waiting on this kid to go. A 192 batting average, 2 homers, 20 RBIs, 27 runs scored, 9 steals. They moved him back to the 8th spot in the lineup. They did that earlier. They moved him back to the 1. He's shown flashes. He's had a couple multi-hit games. He's hit some gappers that look like the Corbin Carroll of old. But what I've seen watching a lot of I got a team with a lot of D-backs, and what I've seen watching a lot of D-backs games this year, shout out to Baby Jane keeping me up late at night. Dude cannot lay off the high fastball. So you're seeing a lot of pop-ups, and you're seeing a lot of swing and miss on the elevated heater. Oh gosh, Will, 1 to 10, where are we?
I've been trying to tell everybody this for a while now. Like, Corbin Carroll ain't a top 5 or 10 player in the league. He's not. So here's my thing. If someone thinks he's a top 10 overall player, I'm at a 14. Like, I mean, it is beyond gone. Like, it's not going to happen. Right? Now, if someone has kind of adjusted a little bit and said, I think he could rebound and still be a top 30 guy. Okay. If someone's there, then I'm kind of at a 7 or an 8. Like, I'm still kind of I still feel like it's a little bit unlikely that he's going to get back to even that. But I think that it's possible. But if someone goes with the logic of, oh man, he was amazing last year, so therefore, like, he's going to figure it out this year, like, I don't think so. My problem is that we have only seen 1 full season of this guy. And he was amazing for about 60% of it, including the playoffs. I'll throw the playoffs in there. He was amazing. I'm not denying that. But it was 1 season. How many guys in the history of baseball have had an amazing half of a season? There's a lot. Right? And so that's my whole thing. Like, we can't say this guy has a track record. He has a track record of 1 year. And so that's the scary part for me. Now, the thing that helps guys like this is the speed aspect. So, like, if and when he does get hot, he's going to steal a ton of bases, right? And then I think the biggest thing for me, and I think this should be the question, is the power going to show up?
Yeah.
If the power comes back, he will at least be good to very good, right? Because he's going to steal bases.
Yeah.
But my thing is I'm not sure the power is going to be there. And so I don't care if somebody can steal 40, 50 bases if they only hit 10 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can get Estuary Ruiz or somebody like that to give me steals if I want speed.
Yeah.
And so
to
your point, though, like just to finish this up, the biggest problem that I have is exactly what you said, is the plate discipline. If somebody has a weakness, in this case a high velocity, high fastball, and you can't stay off of it, guess what? Major league pitchers are going to keep doing it until you prove otherwise. Yeah. That's my biggest problem. I'm very much at a 9 or a 10 with this guy, though, overall.
Yeah. Listen, I'm at like a 5, which, if you know where I've landed with this guy, you know that I've gone to bat with this kid all year. And you can say no track record. I'm trying to, that was a little bit of a monologue, so I'm trying to like divulge piece by piece. You can say no track record. I see what you're saying. Only 1 year in the majors doing it. This dude has prospect pedigree. So I don't know. He's never slugged under 450 in his professional career. This year he's slugging 281. Okay. The underlying plate discipline, like I said, actually improved over last year. So listen, I don't know what it is. If we talked about this, if it's the shoulder, why haven't we heard about it? That's what I want to know. I'm with you. I mean, we're getting to a point where we're 2 months in. He's going to have to go off for the statistics to land in anything that looks even decent the way he started. I mean, this is not a cup of coffee we're talking about here. Like, he's come in, he made reservations, he sat down, he's had his appetizers, had a couple of drinks, and now we're eating the main meal here. Like, I don't know. Dude, I don't know. I'm going to say a 5, and I think it's mainly because you really can't do anything with him. Yahoo's removed him from the can't cut list.
As so they should.
So you can cut him, but you can't trade him for anything. Yeah. I understand it's awful. I understand it's awful. 280 slug is crazy bad. It's crazy. 280 on base. Crazy. I mean, this dude, I don't know.
Here's kind
the tools are there, though. The tools are there. And so I think.
I mean, the tools are definitely there. I'm with you, but like, I'm a production guy, man. Like, you can, like, I'm aware of all the StatCast numbers. I'm aware of all the new analytics stuff that's coming into the game, and I think that's all cool. I really do. But at the end of the day, man, like, show me the actual numbers. And, the only thing that I'll say, just to wrap this up, because I know we need to move forward, is like, there's a lot of guys that crush AAA, AA, single A pitching, right? And I think that Corbin Carroll obviously came up last year. He made a huge splash. But guess what? Major league pitchers are really smart, and they're really good, and they will figure out your weaknesses. And I think it was such a small sample size that it took them a while to adjust. And I think you're now seeing the adjustment, and it's not good for Corbin Carroll. And so, do I think he's going to be this bad? No, I don't.
Yeah.
But do I think this is anywhere close to a top 5, top 10 overall guy? I really don't at this point.
I mean, he's a bust for where you drafted him.
Yeah.
I don't know where he goes. I couldn't even take a guess where he goes next year. I mean, like, what are you like? If
Tom
you had to
will
guess,
tell.
4 to 6 round.
We'll see. It all depends on how he finishes the year. I mean, as of now, yes, I would say somewhere in the 3 through 6 range.
You take him over Ellie?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah, it's wild. This is definitely a down year. You know what I mean? It's wild.
Ellie De La Cruz, is at least going to hit for power. He's going to steal bases. Like, Ellie De La Cruz is going to hit a minimum, barring injury,
Yeah.
He's going to hit at least 20-something home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to
Yeah,
run
it's
into
wild
some.
that the power for Carroll is gone, and then also the batting average is just
Yeah.
not there. It kind of leads me to believe that if you batting average can click, so will the power.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know what's going on. I would love to. I need to get on some interviews, see what he says, because I'd love to know what's going through his mind. It's got to be a dark place because you come up, you rock the world. You're the NL unanimous rookie of the year. Okay, so never not been successful at the sport of baseball, and then you come out and put up these numbers.
Yeah.
It's wild. Moving along, Will, Julio Rodriguez, man, he picked it up last week. We talked about it a little bit, but overall, numbers a little subpar. 269 average, 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, 26 runs scored, 14 steals. Not terrible, but again, top 3 pick. Pretty tough for where you drafted him. How panicked are we?
I'm gonna go about a 4 or 5 on this one. I feel a little bit better for some reason, obviously with Julio than I do Corbin Carroll that we were just talking about. I feel like that Julio, even though it's a somewhat of a limited track record, he has shown us that for whatever reason he is a slow starter.
Mm-hmm.
He has shown signs though of picking it up over these past few weeks. I know it's not quite the level we expect, but it's better. He's hitting more balls in the air. He's hitting more hard hit balls. At bats look better overall. I don't know. I'm still at a 4 or 5. I'm not quite sure we're going to get anywhere close to what we saw last year, but I do at least think that we're starting to see signs of at least a top 10 type of player again. And so, I'm kind of at a 4 or 5, and I think he's going to have a really solid second half. The Mariners are going to need him to have a really solid second half or last 2/3 of the season in this case to hold off the Rangers and the Astros. But I think he's going to be primed for, again, I don't know if he's a top 3 overall player yet, but I think top 10 to 15 for sure.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, I'm at a 1 or a 2. And I own him. It's a frustrating own. Just looking at his statistics versus Carroll, it's hilarious. The underlying stuff is flipped. Like for Carroll, your walk rate, your K rate look fine, but all the contact rate, slugging, hard hit rate, all that stuff looks terrible. And then for Julio, he's walking 5%. That's good for the bottom 10 percentile of the league. And then he strikes out 27% of the time. That's good for 15% in the league, bottom 15%. I'm with you. We talked about it last episode, I guess. It's been a second, but talking about how he's just a power, hasn't been there. But he seems to be finding it a little bit. I mean, this is a guy who can still pump 450. We talked about that. Yeah, I'm not worried about Julio in the slightest. Moving on, last 2, got a couple Blue Jays here. Let's talk about Bo Bichette. Man, this is a first-round pick a couple years ago, Will. I would venture to say even as recent as maybe last year, back half. I guess more second round last year. But 238 batting average, 4 home runs, 25 RBIs, 19 runs, and 4 steals. Looks like he's going to stay put in Toronto, according to his GM. What are you seeing on this? How worried are we?
This one's tough. I'm kind of at a 6 or a 7 on this one, just because with Bo Bichette, for some reason over the past couple of seasons, he stopped stealing as many bases as we thought he would a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so a lot of his value lies in high batting average, give us solid power, obviously score a lot of runs, drive in a lot of runs for the Blue Jays. The issue with that is the Blue Jays lineup as a whole, for some reason, has gotten worse these past few years, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And so the counting stats aren't there like we thought they were going to be there for this team. Obviously, I mentioned the steals. He's only stolen 4 bases so far. So the steals are very minimal. And so really his value needs to be high average, good power.
Mm-hmm.
That's not there either.
Yeah.
And so when I watch him play, he's chasing a lot of pitches out of the strike zone. Obviously he's not getting the home run ball. I don't know. I just feel like, I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I think he's a really good player. But I feel like both with him and Vlad, we had such high expectations after that first year or two, and rightfully so. They looked so good out of the gate, and I just feel like they've kind of, I don't know, it feels like they've peaked so early.
Yeah.
Neither one of them feel like the same player that they were 2 or 3 years ago to me.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I'm at a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good player, but I think the name outweighs the production in this case. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I'm at like a 4, maybe a 3. I think he's going to turn it around. He's shown some signs in the recent weeks that have looked a little bit better. I think he had like a 4-hit game, like went 4 for 4. I look at the underlying stuff. It's the same song and dance as all these guys. They're not hitting the ball hard. Slugging 345, that's slowest in his career. It looks like, by a long shot. The second closest is 469. His OPS is 633. He usually lives above 800, so he's never not done that in the majors. His expected batting average, 261. So this speaks to maybe he's getting a little unlucky. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, would you really want to sell low on him? I mean, what could you get for him? I don't know. I do think he'll pick it up, but I understand why someone would be nervous. Our last Jay to talk about, another guy I've gone to bat with, and we just talked about Taj Bradley earlier in the show. Looks really good some starts, and then we'll just get lit up a few starts. This might be the poster child for this year because Kevin Gausman, overall numbers 4-4, 4.60 ERA, a 1.34 WHIP, 59 Ks in 60 innings pitched, so less than 9 Ks per 9. Pretty rough. Got lit up again on Monday against the Orioles. Great way to start your week. 5+ earned runs in 4 starts this year. His starts outside of that have been solid. What do you got on this?
This one's tough. I want to say around a 5 just because of his track record, and I want to believe that he's going to figure this out. But this whole year I've been skeptical because he started off spring training, if you remember, he had an injury, and he just hasn't seemed like the same guy that we've been used to this past couple of seasons. I mean, this is a guy that's arguably been the best pitcher in the AL other than Garrett Cole these past 2 or 3 seasons. The thing that bothers me is he has statistically over the past couple of seasons the most dominant pitch in baseball, that splitter of his. And it's like some starts he can't get that knockout strikeout pitch when he really needs it.
For sure.
And that's what bothers me with this guy. And so I don't know if there's a lingering injury here that we're not, we don't know about. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to say a 5 right now, but I do have my concerns, no doubt, with Kevin Gausman. I'm just afraid that it's not quite the same as what it has been for whatever reason.
Yeah, dude, what you said was spot on. I think he gave up something like 16 hard hit balls in his last start. And, this is not a guy that usually struggles with command. It's not a guy who usually struggles striking people out. I think everything he said about missing that time in spring training, I think it's rearing its ugly head. I think he'd say the same thing about Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, who have looked terrible.
Yeah, bad.
And we don't have time to talk about this, but dude, what is and I'm blanking on his name because it's getting to be that hour. What's the agent's name? It's Boris. These Boris clients, man, you'd think the teams aren't going to go into negotiations in the offseason with an extra chip to play, in the fact that, like, hey, maybe holding out isn't a genius play, because these big fish that were supposed to come up and produce have not done so. Anyway, back to Kevin Gausman. Yeah, I'm with you. Everything I said. I'm at like a 6. It's wild because if he's on, he's on. He's a little bit like Aaron Nola. I have him coupled with Nola on a couple of teams. And what you run into is, like, you can tell in the first 2 innings if they have it or not. And if not, buckle up, because they are prone to giving up the long ball. I think he gave up 3. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure against, again, Orioles. Maybe just don't start pitchers against the Orioles, Will. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, let's move on to the most exciting part of the show. Closer we get to 4th of July, the more that sound drop's
Right.
just going to make sense, you know? And maybe we record on the 4th, and then I just don't even play it. I just put the mic out the window.
That's a good
because,
idea.
Spring Hill, man, they rip it up. I mean,
Yep.
they're 10 feet from the house just shooting off these fireworks.
Mhm.
Don't get me started. I know my wife's listening to this like, don't talk about that. You don't have time to talk about that. Police said there's nothing they can do. It's a holiday. So they're going to replace my roof. Okay, moving on to the Roman Candle Pick to Click Player of the Week. Will is up 2-1. Picked a doozy this week. Adley Rutschman, his favorite player in all of baseball history. Not really, but I mean, maybe when it's all said and done. Maybe
Yep.
he could ever find his way on the Rays. It would be
Doubtful.
unbelievable. Doubtful. It's never going to happen. He's going to get locked up with the Orioles. Listen, 13 for 39, 1 double, 1 homer, 333 batting average, OPS of 822. What a freaking stud. I went with Michael Harris, the second. He went 12 for 40, 300 batting average, 2 doubles, 1 steal, and not a dang thing else. A 706 OPS. If you own him in fantasy, it's not good that Ronald Acuna went down, but kind of a cause and effect kind of moment. He is getting the lion's share of leadoff as of right now. So I guess that's good for counting stats long term. Will, I don't think there's any discussion to be had here, though. I would rather have Rutschman's stats. Any reason why? I mean, that just feels like the way to go, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Up 3-1. The comeback starts now,
Yep.
but not before you give me your week 6 pick.
So I'm going with a guy in Chicago. The Cubs are kind of on a skid right now. They got to get this thing turned around. I'm going to go Cody Bellinger. Feels like needs to be the best player on the Cubs, at least the best hitter on the Cubs. I look for him to get going. Cubs start to turn this thing around, make up some ground on Milwaukee over this next week or two. And so look for Bellinger to get hot and have a good week or two moving forward.
Yep. Hey, I love it. I think Belly's kind of turned on a little bit, so I like that pick. Cubs did not turn it on; they turned it off. They got swept by Milwaukee and then lost 2 of 3 from the Reds. So it's not what you're looking to do. Okay,
Yeah.
you have an opportunity. Houston did the same thing to Seattle. Had an opportunity to overtake the lead in the division, then lost 3 or 4. So womp womp. My pick, Christian Walker. Okay, underrated first baseman. I think we can say that.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure we had him in
I
Steady
agree.
Eddies. First baseman for the National League champions. The D-backs out there in Arizona having a great year, man. Solid year. 260 average, 12 home runs. And you know what I love about him? He's on pace for what he typically does.
Yep.
Okay? Nobody's doing that right
It's
now,
true.
okay? Up is down, down is up, left
Yep.
is right, cats and dogs mingling. It's just, none of it makes any sense. So this one constant in this fantasy baseball world, Christian Walker, I need a second win, okay? I can't have Will going out 4-1. I just can't have it. So he's gonna deliver. It's good as gold. We're not even gonna talk about it next time because it will be done. Okay. So that's my pick. Will, we made it through 81. Listen, we don't get together as much as we usually do, but these are a little bit longer. I have a great time chatting with you. Before we get out of here, though, listen, we're in the dog days this summer. Anything you want to just preach to these fantasy managers listening to us?
You know, we're in the dog days. I would just say I'll keep it short and sweet because we've talked a lot here, but I think this is a good time, like what we've been saying, figure out who are some buy low candidates, figure out who are some guys you need to maybe trade away on your team if you feel like they're maybe sell high candidates. Really evaluate where you are in the standings, figure out what do I got to do to make that push to get to the top of the standings. And so don't wait too late because that's what a lot of people end up doing. They get to August and it's like, oh, crap, maybe I need to do something. So don't wait till then, but really take this next week or two to figure out where you realistically stand and see what you got to do to get into that top echelon of teams in your standings. And this is the time.
Dude, couldn't said it better myself. You've said it about 1,000 times since the season started. It's not early anymore. So It's time to be honest with yourself. It's time to say, hey, this is what we need to do. And, use the standings to your advantage. Maybe
Yep.
go for one of those lower teams to see if there's, just start a dialogue. That's like my favorite thing to do. You get to meet somebody. It's just a great time. Guys, speaking of a great time, we've had one here tonight. Reach out to us on Twitter at BTH_Cody and at Will Sism. Check out the YouTube channel. It's lots of fun. It's called Bringing the Heat if you want to know what we look like. If you can't get enough of our voices and you want to see our faces along, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but go check that out and hit subscribe. And we really appreciate you. We love you. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 81 of Bringing the Heat.